Hello, everyone. This is Madiha Ahmed here, and I'm here with my mentor, Steve Kantor, the first mentor I've had in my life. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Medea. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very excited to be doing this with you.
And so am I. Uh, so I'll be sharing my story with Steve, like what exactly happened that, our paths crossed. And I was so fortunate and blessed to be knowing him and having his mentorship. So it was in my early years, in my early 20s, when I was looking out for work from home opportunities. And I came across Steve's Life Bushido at that time. And I was so excited to kind of work for a new kind of a model which looked at the personal and professional life of a person, especially looking at goals and the interest that Steve, that you showed to people, especially your clients, the employees that were there. I've never seen that kind of culture before, and especially virtually. The kind of connect that you have with people and the kind of interest you take in their life. So I'd love to know, Steve, a little bit about your background so that even the people who follow me, who look up and kind of see my updates, maybe they would love to know also about your profile and your work.
Uh, sure. So my background is that I'm in the United States. I
Mhm.
currently live in Washington, D.C., Bethesda, Maryland. I originally grew up in San Diego, California. I grew up upper middle class very comfortably and had a happy childhood, which was
Mhm.
good. And because of that, I've generally been a very, very positive person.
Okay.
I went to Boston to Harvard University for college, and I graduated with honors in 3 years, and I majored in government and politics. I then worked and got an Apple computer and learned how to program and started a software company. And then I went and got a graduate degree and a master's in international relations. And then I backpacked around the world for a year. When I was about 25, I backpacked around the world, including India. And I took trains between Calcutta and Mumbai and Agra and Delhi and Jaipur and Jaisalmer, and probably had a connection and really liked the Indian culture. Then I came back and I started a software company, and I developed a software product, CRM product, and sold that company 15 years ago. I took a sabbatical and then started a company called Life Bushido, which seeks to connect people to focus on their unique talents and achieve what I call their Bushido. So what I love to do is I love to find 1 in 1,000 people, you may be watching right now, and connect them together into a triangle of 3 people to help each other achieve their Bushido. The Bushido is from the word from Japanese, and it relates to the samurai. And a Bushido is like a passion project or a venture, whether it's business, creative, or social entrepreneurial that you want to do. And I love doing that. And so, and I've really admired watching you grow both personally and professionally over the last few years. Even though we haven't communicated a lot like this, I know that we're in each other's hearts and spirits and encouraging each other.
Thank you, Steve. That was so lovely. So today's topic, I really felt, I wanted to discuss something publicly with my mentors on the topic of leadership during crisis. Because being my mentor, I've seen, like in the story, be it the personal story, the professional story, or the corporate and the social angle, which Steve works on so deeply and in with so much of interest. So this is what we're going to discuss today: leadership during crisis. Steve, I'm sure in your life, as you've shared it with me in the past also, and a lot of other people who have been inspired by you, about like how you've thrived amidst crisis and you've stood out as a leader, whether it's in personal space, whether it's in the corporate space, or in the social impact segment in USA, and also having good, kind of connections and meeting good people across the world. So I would love to know how you look at leadership during crisis at a personal level first.
So leadership during crisis, and as you said, at a personal level, that's, as we spoke before we started the recording, is kind of self-leadership. That, in my mind, leadership in terms of impacting or leading others, it has to start with yourself. All of us, whether you're a leader or you're a follower, you need to define how you're leading yourself and how you process something. And what I've found is during moments of crisis for me, when my mind gets sort of locked down in fear or worry or anxiety, is that it's very helpful to lay out, okay, here's the situation, here are the possible outcomes, which are multiple, and what would be the worst case scenario, and then which items do I have control over versus the items I don't have control over. So first, processing my own mindset of how I'm thinking about the situation.
Right. So when you said that, like, what is in control and what is not in control, I think that would fall under various categories when it comes to a global crisis or a local national crisis. Like, for example, certain things an individual can take care of, but there will be a lot of things that maybe the corporates can take care of because they, run the show through their entrepreneurial ventures or through the, contribution that they make to the economy of the country. And there will be a lot of other things that require the government support. So what are the 2 or 3 things that, Steve, you would suggest that, people during this crisis time when they are at home, what can they say, what can they do, what can their thought and process and mindset can be, so that, they're productive in this time and they execute self-leadership in the best way possible wherever they are in the world?
So here's my thought, which is the way, and just to explain where we are in the United States, I'm sort of about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of India in terms of realization of the impact of this, etc. All of us around the world are at a different time point of understanding the scope of it. What I realized a couple weeks ago is everybody out there is going to group into 3 groups of people. Either people are going to be in pain, which I think may be about 20% of the people, which means they either, unfortunately may get sick or a loved one gets sick, or they're in emotional pain right now. They're in a little mental anguish. And as you know, lots of people probably are more afraid than the average person, and they may be in pain mentally right now of fear, worry, anxiety about their physical or emotional or professional health or business health. The majority of the people, 70%, are sort of even keel, and maybe 10% of the people are in a position like you and me where they can help other people. So that's one thing, is recognize, where are you? Are you in a pain situation or you've become a pain situation? In that case, you just need to take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, right? Or are you even keel, or are you in the 10% that are able to help other people right now? That's one thought. The other thought is, look at your life right now in 3 dimensions: physical, emotional, and professional, or work or business. So first of all, physically, if we all know we're supposed to stay inside, then just do your part of staying inside, and the loved ones you're living with stay inside. If you see other people that are breaking the curfew, don't get all angry and stressed and upset, because it's not within your control.
Absolutely.
You understand? It's not good to get emotionally upset by that, because it's outside your control. Just deal with the physical part of your life that's within your control. Secondly, emotionally, spread positive energy and good vibes with other people, and try to help people who need calming down in terms of emotionally. And third, professionally, job, business, this is where what we're living with is what's called a black swan or a wild card. We have no idea what's going to happen, okay? So if you're the type of person that likes to logic out and take action and make plans, you can't make plans right now. You can't. Right now, our shutdown is about 2 weeks into it, stay at home. I don't know whether it's going to be for another 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So there's something called the cone of possibility. Don't think of it as, oh, there's only one possibility, we're going to be shut down for 6 months and we're going to all run out of food, right? That's not true. That is a possibility. It's not a good one, But the other one is that because India shut down early, that 1 or 2 months from now, it starts to open up and the economic impact is way less than anybody thought. So have a cone of possibility of different things.
Mm. Oh, great. So, when it comes to like, I also kind of actually now understand this better because when you said that when something is out of control and you just think of one possibility and the worst case scenario, when especially we're all emotionally overburdened and thinking all the time, something will go wrong because in spite of knowing there are people who will try to take care and not let the country, I mean, go in total ruin, whichever country that is. So, a lot of companies are shut down, and as someone who's been into so many businesses, who's been there, I'm sure, as a mentor and consultant for other businesses, what is the right thing to do, and what is the doable thing at this point for the employees who are there at home? They must be working from home, but that is it the time to skill, and if yes, then what are the skills that they can kind of look at? How much of it should be personal, because you're someone I feel who emphasizes on personal professional goals as well.
Right.
So
So
we would love
here's,
to know.
here, I have a very strong comment, and speaking to the business owners out there who are making decisions for their corporations or companies, or schools, whether they employ 10 people, 100 people, or 1,000 people. Think of the hierarchy I just laid out: physical, emotional, business, professional, okay? So there are business people around the world who are doing the wrong thing as a leader. They are thinking of their personal economic situation. They're panicked that their business is going to go bankrupt, and it may. And because of that, they're making bad decisions, bad leadership decisions related to the physical safety of themselves or their employees, or damaging the emotional health of
Oh.
themselves and their employees. So,
Mm.
from a leadership perspective, what I'd state is there's too many business people may have that frame of mind because they think that's what's most important, but they need to step back and look at the reality. Job number one for leadership for a business owner right now, whether they're in India, America, or France, is the physical safety of themselves and
Mm.
of their employees.
Mm.
And then what can they do to calm the emotional safety of
Mm.
themselves and their employees?
Right.
As an employee, what I'd say is if you're at home and you have coworkers, hopefully what you're doing is you're doing WhatsApp or chatting, etc., with your coworkers and providing emotional support in this time of unknowns.
Mm, right. So, Steve, another very interesting thing that we can add value through this particular conversation is that the company that you started, Life Bushido, that was virtual company, and today, do you think that many companies, though they boast of being technologically advanced when it comes to operations, like Life Bushido was operationally even totally dependent on for every little thing on technology, and everyone maybe who was not even technically so sound got used to it. So is it the time to kind of now skill everyone in any sector to kind of start looking at having better operations and systems virtually?
So um, the virus crisis is going to affect things in different ways,
Mm,
and the impact will depend upon how many months it lasts
right.
and the scope of the economic impact and, of
Mm,
course, the health
mm,
impact.
mm,
In the United States, it's already clear that the use of Zoom, for example, that we're using right now has skyrocketed. For me, for 15 years, I've worked from home. I had 100 employees around the world in 10 different countries. We all operated virtually. For me, it's a given, it's a known, it's not a big deal. What will happen is that there will be a faster shift to the ability to do things virtually.
mm,
And I'm sure in India, where the transport issue is very difficult, transport and commuting is
mm,
terribly, terribly stressful and consumes so much of one's life. Hopefully, there'll be more people more open to being able to work from home, etc. And as we shift from 4G to 5G, that will happen even more so. So I
yes.
think it will accelerate the shift of different business activities to virtual.
Okay, great. And when it comes to like leadership, so I'm sure, like, working in the real estate, you would have come across people and you would have to work closely with even the government sector to understand, the legalities of things, and also how the legal sector would work, and also at the same time, running a business, so the corporate sector, and even doing several types of businesses, and then having a personal angle with, I mean, I see your Facebook posts, the kind of people that you meet, they're quite interesting, influential people. So all these things, when you look at, and the people that you've interacted with, how do you see that, the people in the top leadership, like, kind of respond to situations? Because a lot of times, people who are down bottom in the pyramid, or like in the lower hierarchy, they are very quick to judge people at the top leadership, assuming a lot of things which may or may not be true, whether it's the government, whether it's the company boss, or it is, somebody who's running the show in whatever other capacities, legally or otherwise. So do you think that, there are struggles that people at the bottom of the pyramid also need to be aware of, that the top leadership is going through, and therefore even they should be a little considerate and not just expect considerations from their bosses?
Um, that's interesting. You mentioned a lot of topics. So the last thing you said, Medea, I would connect to the word compassion. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so I think all of us can take a deep breath and be compassionate for others,
Hmm.
whether they are at our same peer level, or they're our bosses, or the government leaders, or
Hmm.
they're people who work for us as employees, etc. So I
Hmm.
think in this time, if we pause and have compassion for others more so, that would be great. And also self-compassion. If you're stressed out, have compassion for yourself, that it's okay to be stressed out. It's kind of stressful situation. One other thing you mentioned is, I think India is I may be wrong, India may be a more hierarchical country than the US. So my guess is there's people who are waiting for their boss or the government to do things, right? In a crisis like this, bottom up self-organizing groups is what usually saves things. During um, during crises, or weather events, etc., usually it's bottom up community that bands together in self-organizing groups that makes things happen. So for example, if if there are people who um, need help in your geographic community, right? Who is touching base with them? Who's making sure they're okay? Who's making sure that they're going to get, food, water supplies, etc.? That's the type of bottom-up organizing.
Okay, so I did read about, and so when our Prime Minister addressed, Narendra Modi ji addressed the people of the country, he did mention that, certain very basic things would be available, and there are certain timings, of course, now it's not full time available, and also there are things that the government, the state government, the central government is trying to do. So yes, there are some even initiatives that I came across where people were trying to get, organized into voluntary groups to kind of provide foods in places where, and these are all leadership, like, kind of groups or people who are working. But at the same time, this is, I believe, not like another situation where it's like a flood, or it's like, another situation where people can just get down and kind of do it, because it's, I mean, social distancing has become very important in this whole process of even helping others. So Steve, how do you see, like, what is your interpretation of this word? Because it's very interesting to even think of this word called social distancing.
There, so there's a situation right now, which is there are many, many unknowns. There is a lot of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in India, probably more so a little bit than the United States right now, because you just shut down, and we've been shut down for 2 weeks. And the incidence of the virus is actually less in India than it was in the United States when it shut down, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
open yourself up to the possibility that a lot of this stuff is just going to be unknown and uncertain. So in that scenario, do you want to place one bet, or do you want to place 3 bets? I'd rather place 3. meaning
Wow.
that I wouldn't bet my life on the federal government or the head. I don't know whether it's called the federal government, right?
No, central. Yeah. So we have
I,
one.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to bet my life on just the central government figuring it out. And I wouldn't want to bet my life on you're in Calcutta, correct?
Yes, Kolkata. Yeah.
Okay, I wouldn't in Kolkata. So I wouldn't want to bet my life on just Kolkata figuring it out. And I wouldn't want to bet my life on just my neighbors figuring it out. I'd say the way I phrase it is place multiple bets and assume that all pieces may help, but you don't know what. So for example, right now, we're not in a good position. We do not have strong leadership at the central government level in the United States. In fact, it's quite scary and fearful if you read some of the tweets. In addition, the testing situation is terrible in the United States right now. The number of tests is not what it should be. And when you look at the examples that are working, South Korea and Taiwan, it directly relates to testing. So the one thing I'd say from my layman's view is that that's going to be a critical part in every country's situation, is how the testing ramps up, etc., and whether it's done by private parties or the government.
Right.
I'm not sure. I think I got off track there in answering your question.
No, Steve, it's always good to kind of make it like, how we normally speak. So, I mean, the viewers also see that how mentor talk actually happens between you and me and how you mentor me generally. So,
Right.
yeah.
What can I? Are we ready to flip it so I can ask you some questions, or you want to ask me one more,
Okay.
or what do you prefer?
No, I'm happy to
Okay.
answer.
I, so how are you feel? How do you feel right now overall emotionally? Are you really worried, medium worried, not so worried? How are you emotionally?
So I was worried the day I came back from my work trip, and I had been to 2, 3 cities. So my fear was that, kind of I would catch the virus, and especially the day, I mean, I was already here. I was literally crying, thinking, what if I get it? So that day was like a crying day. Like literally, I was crying half the day, thinking something will happen. But that very day at night, I told myself that this is the time I would be shut off from everything that I was normally doing. I had a routine of research every day and going to kind of like as I work for my goals and dreams and work with children in physical space, which is more impactful, I felt that this was a time when God was training my soul. When it was time to prepare, because maybe I had reached a certain level in life where I was kind of doing well, but I had to level up my game because the challenges of the world were, I mean, going to rise, of course. So that was like a leadership training that maybe God created for me, and I had to use this as a preparation time to skill myself, to reevaluate whatever I was doing, reassess things, and to look at things from a fresher perspective. And then innovation spark came in. So I came up with this Team India concept that was because I felt that children would be intellectually totally disconnected from school stuff. So why not make school stuff interesting through STEAM: science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. And then I again worried that a lot of them would be into technology, like especially Netflix, or things that they would not otherwise get time with, or video games. So I thought digital had to be their focus on that had to be revised. So why not give them a different perspective of how technology can be used? So I mean, I was starting to look at this as an opportunity to engage people intellectually and digitally in a better way, so that the way I was doing it for myself, I extended the same to more people and children to start with. So that when history, I mean, in the years to come, they would look at it as like a historical moment, when they would not say, oh, I made so many sacrifices, I was all day at home doing this, but they would say I was intellectually engaged, I was preparing myself to make a better future for myself and my country and family. So yes, that's the attitude I had.
Okay, so you just described how you kind of move through worry and anxiety and fear, and then you move to a thought of how can I contribute, right?
Yeah,
How can I contribute
yes.
and help other people? And hopefully, the people who are watching this either right now or over the next few days, they'll be in that 10% I talked about, that
Hmm.
they're emotionally and physically okay, and they have the wherewithal that they want to help other people, right?
Right, right.
So I haven't really seen what you're planning to do or already off doing with the remote, digital education right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you'll send that to me afterwards.
Sure.
But I'd say two things. One is keep your mind open to flux and change,
Hmm.
and that the path you're thinking of helping people, that may work, but you may decide in 3 days or 5 days that there's a different path that's more powerful. So
Hmm.
keep yourself open to those cone of possibilities.
Hmm.
The
Right.
other thing is, for those of you watching who are in the 10%, like Medea and myself, who are able to help people, let me give you a challenge. How many people do you want to help in the next month while
Wow.
India is shut down? I'll give you choices. Do you want to help 10 people? Or do you want to help 100 people? Or do you want to help 1,000 people? No
Wow.
one's ever asked you that question in your life. Every single person that applied for a job with Life Bushido, I asked them that question. And you'll find out why someday. But if you want to contact me, and Medea will post it in the posting, please email me at steve.kantor, Kantor, @gmail.com. And I'd love to interact with you and help to encourage you to achieve your Bushido. So if you are coming up with a Bushido that you want to help 10 people, 100 people, 1,000, email me. Medea and I will brainstorm with you, and we'll help you connect to other people in a triangle to achieve your
That's
Bushido,
nice.
to help lots of people in India and around the world. How's
That's
that?
a good idea. That's the only way, Steve. Imagine, we were always trying to come up with an idea of how to bring about the triangles in a situation. I think this is a great time to actually start that and encourage people towards goals. And I think it's a brilliant idea. Let's make it
Okay.
more solid after this
Let me let
discussion.
me let me toss out one last thought for you,
Yes.
which is find the kids in high school or in college
Mm-hmm.
who want to help teach, digitally teach the younger kids right now,
Mm.
basically to teach them. And you can help teach, you could basically train the trainer. You may be doing that already.
Yes, that's true.
Uh,
One last
okay.
question to you,
Anyway,
Steve.
that was my last words of wisdom. What's your last words of wisdom for the crowd watching?
Okay, so mine is that when I learned from Steve, I would end on the note of what I learned from him, especially about a word called boldness. So I mean, typically, being a woman, boldness is about wearing certain kind of clothes, or talking, and modern. If you're a modern educated youth, it's more about the accent that you use, or the kind of talk that you give to kind of impress more people. But what I learned from Steve's training as as a mentor of mine is this: that boldness is more about having the courage to follow the path when it seems like it's not going to work. And what he said, to look at all the different aspects of your life and try to figure them out more, and to always kind of reassess them. And secondly, boldness is about kind of taking that courage, to take at least that first step, one step at a time. This is what Steve would always say: don't think so big, have smaller plans, and then also have multiple plans with each plan, so that in case one fails, you have another backup always to go back with. So thank you so much, Steve. I'm so delighted that it's such an honor to be talking to you publicly on this.
Let me kind of wrap it up with a thought from what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing Medea mentioned in terms of boldness, which is the word Bushido,
Mm-hmm.
and she mentioned her role as a woman, etc. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand it's different in Indian culture,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, every person is an individual, and they can contribute and help other people from the position they come from.
Right.
So, one thing that you're experiencing, one thing I love about knowing you and meeting you, is that in the past 1,000 days,
Mm.
you have experienced the Life Bushido tagline, anything is possible. If you think of what's happened in your life over the last 1,000 days, you would never, ever have imagined that. So, what I'd like to say is, look, anything is possible. Did any of you think that the country of India would all stay home for a month or two? Uh, no.
Not either.
No, I don't think so.
It would not have been possible.
It
Nobody
would
would have
not have ever
entered.
happened. Okay.
Yes.
So some of you watching, hopefully, are motivated and excited by the challenge of how can you help 10, 100, 1,000 other people in your community, either right around you or across India. And Medea and I are going to take our efforts, connect together, and connect you all into triangles of 3 people each to help you achieve your Bushido of helping each other and helping others. How's that, Medea?
I love it. I'm all up for it. And we can
Okay,
share the details very soon after this video. Thank you so much, Steve.
awesome. Reach out to us. Bye-bye.
Bye.